I have concerns. Sylvester Stallone doesn't strike me as a good racing driver. I mean, he sounds like he's a bit slow, like he's thinking through that clear jelly that surrounds a pork pie. I'd worry that his reactions would be slow, and that's not even mention that he is a man noted for being so muscly that he could snap the head off of a hippo just using his earlobe. And you'd be squeezing all that mass into a small cockpit of a motor car that's a space akin to a drain pipe taped onto a skateboard. His pecs would get in the way of his biceps in those conditions. Plus, he's as old as a mummy. I worry you can't put a guy like that on a land-based rocket. You'll kill hundreds of people. Sly, get out of that car. You'll do yourself a wrong'un. Driven was a 2001 Warner Brothers action sports movie, something Stallone was pretty good at, as I'm sure we've all seen. You know, we've all seen Over the Top, right? That's the one we're all thinking of, right? That action sports movie. Yeah? That's his best movie, isn't it? Over the Top. Everyone loves Over the Top. That's certainly the movie we're all thinking about, isn't it? When we think of action sports movies and Sylvester Stallone, I'm guessing. Anyway, directed by Finnish director Renny Harlin, a man with a mixed resume in terms of his movies, making quality fare like Long Kiss Goodnight, Die Hard 2 and Deep Blue Sea, alongside less quality stuff like Exorcist the Beginning, The Adventures of Ford Fairlane and a previous channel favourite Cutthroat Island. Ooh, the movie that killed a studio. Having previously worked with Stallone with the movie Cliffhanger, the pair teamed up to produce a movie set in the glamorous high-speed world of Formula One racing. Stallone himself spent time hanging about in pit lanes of numerous races, as well as recruiting numerous Formula One luminaries like Jacques Villeneuve, Juan Pablo Montoya, Jean Alesi and Mark Blundell to star, and act as stand-ins for the actors during the races. However, producers Stallone and Harlin got frustrated due to the secrecy of the Formula One teams as regards sourcing information about them, so in the end he decided to set the story in the kart championship car race, a sort of low-budget version of Formula One. In terms of step downs, it's a sort of like going to eat a steak in a 5-star restaurant and then just settling in the end for buying a can of corned beef in a local Tesco and just eating it in a bus stop. But at least the now defunct kart championship were a bit more open with giving their information. They were just probably pleased for the attention. Unfortunately, Driven didn't do very well. With a budget of $72 million, it made back a pitiful $32 million return and took a slating from the movie press. Today you can see that it has a lowly 14% aggregate score on Rotten Tomatoes, and it also at the time got 7 Golden Raspberry Award nominations, with actress Estella Warren scooping up the award for Worst Actress. You might remember Estella as the human slave in Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. She was the one who looked like the concept of sliced ham confused her. Doi! Driven also starred Kit Pardew, Burt Reynolds and Gina Gershon. In it sees Formula race champion Joe Tanto, played by Stallone, brought out of retirement to mentor young upstart Jimmy Bly to glory. Yes, basically the plotline is Rocky V or Creed, but on 4 wheels and with a lot less punching. There's not a lot more to it than that. BAM Entertainment, who also released games based on the movies Reign of Fire and the previously covered X vs. Sever, acquired the Driven license and released games for the PlayStation 2 and Game Boy Advance in November 2001 and for the Gamecube in March 2002. The home console games are reminiscent of the old PlayStation Formula 1 games, or something like a Virtua Racing, say, whereas the Game Boy Advance version goes with a more system-suitable isometric racing style, more akin to RC Pro-Am, Rock'n'Roll Racing, Super Off-Road or Biker Mice from Mars. There are three main options for gameplay: the pure racing of arcade mode, the self-explanatory multiplayer mode, and the objective-based story mode, which loosely monkeys the plot of the movie with a few creative freedom plot points thrown in to bolster the game's running time. Presentation is interesting in the home ports, with Stallone and commentators Greg Proops and Eric Myers appearing as still cartoon sketches but lending their larynxes to proceedings. It's bizarre. It feels some compromises have been made for time and finance reasons, but it does add a dash, the merest hint of narrative texture to the proceedings. You can select from 12 movie characters that control slightly differently, and there's a mechanic called the zone that gives your handling and speed a minor boost. The home pairing of driven games on the PlayStation 2 and the Gamecube weren't really something that I enjoyed very much, as they did play a little bit dull and quite monotonous. The music, sound effects and graphics are drab, and it can be quite frustrating to play. While I'm not convinced that the Game Boy Advance version is any better in any of the previously mentioned criteria, it was certainly the version I enjoyed playing the longest, and I'm a sucker for isometric race games ever since I performed an oral sex act upon a RC Pro-Am cartridge to persuade it to work on my NES. In addition, BAM and developers Crawfish did really good things with that X vs Sever game on the Game Boy Advance, so I was definitely more intrigued by this than the dime a dozen home racing versions that they made for the PlayStation and GameCube. While the pre-race commentary and quotes from Stallone have gone, we do get the same presentation existing in the form of cartoon representatives of each movie character appearing with their car at the character select screen. But there's also some hidden racers representing some of the brick and mortar establishments where a young teen may have procured his video game from. Yes, retailers like GameStop and Target are represented here, so if you feel like supporting your store and representing the company that let you trade in your Sega Saturn for a copy of Madden 2001 covered in fingerprints and semen, then you can do that, kid. You do that. You do that company a great honour, and you do it today and remember them. Remember what they did for you. The game handles pretty well. There's no fanning about with gears and all that guff, giving us a pure arcade-style racer experience. You just have your accelerator and your brake. The car models are little tiny polygonal efforts that smoothly animate against that 2D backdrop. But the best graphical feature award goes to the visual representation of the zone that is taken from its big brother counterparts on the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube. You see, the little cars in this, when you get in the zone, they are literally aflame, like massively on fire, like fireballs. Are you in there, Sly? Are you okay? You're going to melt, mate. The other side of your face is going to drop. That flame retardant suit must be working overtime in there. Jesus Christ, that looks warm. Woof! The story mode from the bigger games remains, with beats from the movie in place, with one race pitting a character in a street race against his bitter rival, whilst attempting to avoid lorries and manhole covers, though I did find that colliding with the lorry made absolutely no difference, although maybe I was going underneath it, like in one of those cool movie stunts. Possibly that's what was happening. The story mode, though, it is short, and when it's done, I'm not sure that the game is good enough. That said, I still preferred the Game Boy Advance version to its bigger brother counterparts, and it is a fun distraction for a couple of hours. Moving on to the reviews, well, IGN didn't rate the GameCube version at all well, saying it might be worth a rental if you want your racing fix very badly, but schedule in a more exciting activity shortly afterwards, like crocheting or a crossword puzzle. They gave it a 3.5 out of 10. They slated the PlayStation 2 one even more, giving it a 2.0 out of 10, and stated that all the good ideas are for naught because of the game's horrible controls. Because of this, the game just isn't fun to play. They, like me, preferred the Gameboy Advance version, slapping on a 6.5 rating and praising the 4-player link-up play, but berating Crawfish for not taking more risks, suggesting more things like spin-outs and power slides could have made the game more wild and therefore more interesting. So yes, Driven isn't as exciting on the Game Boy Advance as the wonderful efforts that Crawfish put into X vs Sever, sadly, but it is worth a go, as I've previously said. The PlayStation 2 and Gamecube ones though, no, not at all really. They are simply way worse than much better titles in their genres on those formats, so they're really not worth bothering with, and I suggest that you do not do that. Right, well that's that wrapped up then. Let's hope that Sly Stallone plays more to his age and we get a movie next year and subsequent Switch game adaptation of a tale about a lawn bowls champion who comes out of retirement to coach a plucky 59-year-old upstart to glory, eh? That seems more age appropriate to me. Like, subscribe, and K, thanks, bye. Vroom.